Durante il mio viaggio in Ucraina, oltre che fare il turista, ho avuto modo di collaborare con Sole Terre, una onlus che si occupa di garantire cure pediatriche, accoglienza dei rifugiati, sostegno psicologico e tante altre cose in 8 paesi del mondo, tra cui appunto l'Ucraina, e in particolare il reparto di oncologia pediatrica di Leopoli, che ho voluto mostrarvi con i miei occhi, per poter dare un nome e un volto alle persone aiutate da questa associazione.
Our patient Katerina, she have 30-year-old. We begin treatment in the end of 2022 years. This patient have tumor in brain. We have treatment in 1 day. And Roman, it's our oldest patient. We have treatment in 1 day in this protocol, and we have brain tumor in cerebellum.
Hello.
Добрий день.
It's our patient Maxenko and Bogdanchik. Maxenko has 4 years, and we began our treatment last year. Say hi.
Hi from Italy.
Привет з Італії. And our patient Bogdanchik, he has 3 years and have tumor in kidney, in one kidney.
Queste stanze completamente nuove servono per i pazienti che devono fare un trapianto di cellule staminali e che devono stare in isolamento perché sono molto più soggetti alle infezioni, avendo quindi bisogno di una stanza speciale. Sono state costruite nel 2021 grazie a Sole Terre. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work.
Thank you for your help.
My name is Roman Kizema. I am the pediatric oncologist, so I treat kids with cancer, and now I am the director of the whole hospital. But still, I am the pediatric oncologist, you understand this. So I treat the kids with cancer. And with Sole Terre, we built a huge stem cell department here. And they helped our doctors to go to Italy and get training in Pavia, in Milan, in Roma and other cities, so we have a lot of connections. And also after the war, Sole Terre helped us to move children to Italy, because here we had a lot of rockets from Russia and explosions. It was hard, you understand that it's hard to treat cancer when you get the explosions.
And you have other children from other parts of Ukraine going here.
Yes. So it is not only local children. So we are the national hub. So they are going here because Lviv is in the west, and everyone was going here. And the numbers are like hundreds of them. And we couldn't treat them all here. That's why we moved them a lot. People from Sole Terre, they helped us to organize the evacuation. Sole Terre comes here to help us with some specific drugs for treating cancer, with some medical equipment, with psychological help. And of course there is a big friendship, so now we have a good connection, and that's why we also welcome you and thank you for coming here, because you're a brave guy.
Thank you for doing this job. Ma questo non è l'unico progetto di Sole Terre in Ucraina, e infatti la mattina dopo sono andato fuori città con Anastasia, una ragazza che lavora appunto in Sole Terre e che mi avrebbe fatto da traduttrice. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hello, Anna.
Dobry rano. Sto andando in questo piccolo villaggio di campagna a un'ora da Leopoli, che si chiama Nesluvik, per vedere una casa dove vivono alcune famiglie rifugiate e sentire le loro storie. Anche questo è un progetto di Sole Terre, quindi vi lascio in descrizione tutti i dati nel caso voleste donare qualcosa. Stiamo andando a comprare qualcosa per le famiglie, per i bambini che vivono lì, da dargli. More.
Okay.
Tutto si ferma quando c'è l'inno. Anche al supermercato la cassiera non ci stava facendo pagare perché c'era l'inno ed è importante per loro, quindi ha aspettato che finisse. Siamo arrivati a Nesluvik e anche se è piccolissimo come villaggio non riusciamo a trovare il posto dove dobbiamo andare. In the middle of nowhere. In questo piccolo villaggio di campagna c'è una casa che si vede subito non centrare molto con il resto delle abitazioni. È completamente nuova, è stata costruita da poco ed è una casa che accoglie i rifugiati. Quindi tutto questo edificio che vedete È stato fatto anche grazie a Sole Terre.
This is Lida, Stas, and Anatoly.
Нас сюди поселили, бо ми лежали.
They are from Kramatorsk, which is Donetsk region, where a lot of war action is going on right now. They moved from Kharkiv, where the missile hit them, and the child Stas, he sustained like a concoction, damage to the head. So they transferred here in Lviv and have been staying in Lviv's hospital for children for a long time, and then they were offered a place here in this shelter. They've been here for only 2 weeks or so. They've just been a bit preoccupied with Stas's injuries. He's missing like 8 centimeters of his skull, and they're right now undergoing procedures to remove his scars and burns. He's feeling much better since the accident. He spent like 9 days in coma when he was back in Kharkiv. So now he's recovering, but he's feeling much better thanks to physical exercises, the therapy, and someone actually sent him a bicycle so he can bicycle around the village as well. When he was in coma, the doctor said that he's not gonna make it, and when he actually wake up, which was a miracle, he didn't recognize anyone at all.
Ну, хотілося, ну, справа хотілося.
They're saying that everybody here in the shelter are praying for it all to end as well. Really want to go back home to Kramatorsk, to Kharkiv, where the mother was born. But she says that it's not far from front lines, which is now front lines, and everything there is destroyed. There is nothing to come back to. But the father says that they will rebuild everything, you know. It's like a impossible dream probably, but they would like to return and to rebuild everything and to just come home.
Natalia è sia una rifugiata, come ascolterete, ma si occupa anche della casa ed è lei infatti che ci ha accolto quando siamo arrivati.
Natalia's husband is also, he's not living in the shelter, but he's working in a neighboring village for like electricity, like electrician basically. And she says that she also tries to work. She works here as a cleaning lady and also like overseer of this shelter sometimes. But unfortunately, her younger child has it's either disabilities. A year ago, when Natalia moved here, she also got a stroke. Because of the stress and everything, she got a stroke and her right parts don't work as good. They just opened the business back in their hometown, but it got destroyed. And unfortunately, they took like a credit from the bank to open this business, and they're still paying it, even though the business got destroyed. So it's very hard for Natalia. She's basically supplying for the whole family for a long time now, for 3 children. The father, of course, before they lost contact with him. So it's been very stressful to her.
No contact with the father.
No contact with the father since last year, basically, this time last year. She also has a brother who was left behind in Lysychansk together with the father, so they lost contact with him too. But her brother's child, they were able to move the child from this area, and the child is now living with his grandmother somewhere also in this region, in the other town. Natalia said she really likes it here because when they just arrived in this region, they were placed in a school because they arrived in summer, there were no classes for children. So they were able to stay in a school with a lot of other people there. Then they moved to a house, but they couldn't afford it, and it was also not suitable to spend the winter there. It was really cold. 150 euros to pay for the house. It was a lot of them to them, especially because they also have to pay for the credit they took for the business. And when they were offered the place here, they took it. They were told that it's going to be like a boarding house, so like a kitchen will be shared with other people. But actually, when they received their rooms, just like this one, as you can see, they all have separate rooms. They have separate kitchens. They have like bed clothes. They have like household chemicals to clean, to cook, stuff like this. So the psychologists come here sometimes to help the children kind of communicate with each other, to build some sort of community, you know, and to warm up for each other a little bit. Natalia says that at the beginning it was a bit more difficult because the locals didn't know what to think about them, were like a bit cold to them, especially because of the language barrier. In Ukraine there's more of a lot of Ukrainian speakers, but also a lot of Russian-speaking people. So also language barrier didn't help at the beginning. But now they say like when the psychologists started coming, they started to help to build a community and help people and children especially to start communicating with each other. They've been offered to stay here, to have a house here, maybe in the future. But Natalia says they're still thinking about actually staying here because they really want to go back home. So if in like next year nothing changes, the war doesn't end, they will return and try to rebuild their house, which is, as she says, destroyed. Half of it is like missing. So she really wants to go back home to Lysychansk to rebuild the house and to live back there again. Christina, Olena, tak? Тебе Олена звати? Olena и Sasha. A family of 3, as I said, 2 of them, the mother and one of the children, have some sort of disability or a trauma. So they were also living in Lysychansk, the city from which Natalia from before is. And they say they've been living with an elderly relative, but after they died and the war started, they were staying in Lysychansk for some time. They didn't want to leave, but then they saw rockets flying right above their house and hitting the neighboring house on the 5th floor. So after that, they ran to the basement, and they didn't have any food storage or anything. They were not able to take any food basically with them, and in like short hours of like silence from the rockets, they were trying to go to the shop and to grab something to bring back to the basement, but on their way back there a rocket hit, and the shrapnel, the pieces of the rocket almost hit them. They hid behind the tree and then ran back to the basement, and they say it's been a long time under the rockets, and a lot of people there in their city they didn't make it because they killed themselves from jumping from the buildings and stuff like this. It was impossible to even bury the dead. They've been living in this basement for a month with this sort of lifestyle, trying to go for food, being like the rockets flying around, hitting their hometown, and even like in the queue to get some bread, they heard explosions all around them. And even one time the rocket landed right near Christina, but it didn't explode. So it was a miracle. And then their friend said that they need to evacuate as soon as possible, so they were able to go to the buses. There were like 4 buses, and they were able to fit in and to finally escape. But they say that even here the rockets still fly. She says that there is nowhere to return basically. Her house is under occupation, and until it's been like demined, there's nowhere basically to return to. It's gonna take a long time. And her relative's house, the village where she's from, she says it's like there's just ground there. There's nothing basically left, and the houses that are still standing are being like looted by the marauders, by basically the Russians. The mother has a disability. She has epilepsy. She had it since childhood, and her last episode of epilepsy was like a few months ago again. And the child, Sasha, the youngest one, she also has a disability. She's with basically a development disability. But yes, they say that they've been living in the school for half a year after they arrived. The school I told you about, a lot of people, no spaces for yourself. and now they moved here. They say it's much better. She said it's much better to live here for sure than in the basement where she spent months back in home. She says like they saw some horrific things, people dying, nobody like burying them because the missiles around, and just it's dangerous, and their house being destroyed completely. She says some people return there, but she doesn't understand them because there is nothing, nowhere to return. She has a disability, so she needs to visit the hospitals and leave sometimes. She says that from all the stress, the episodes of epilepsy returned. And she says like even yesterday when it rained and there was thunder, she was like really shaken. It was a lot of stress for her to hear these sounds again. And just says that they really want to return home, but nowhere to return to. And she said that it's gonna be under occupation, and even if they return, everything from their house was looted, was stolen. She also has like a problem with language barrier. The language that she speaks in, it's like a mix of Russian and Ukrainian. And she says that she also like, because here in this region there's a lot of like Ukrainian speaking people, she has a bit of a trouble to, completely go like and speak Ukrainian, like a pure Ukrainian, as well as her children as well. But she says that the oldest daughter really likes school. They go like to excursions, like to the city. But she says like she's a bit frightened to let her older daughter to go to the city because Lviv is a very big city, and the like shaheds, you know shaheds, yes, it's like drones with like explosives that just fly around. She's a bit scared to let her daughter go, but she likes it. She and her children are very scared of the air alarms and stuff like this, but she also says that when the psychologist comes here, it gets a bit easier for her after she talks to them, to the adult psychologist. She says like, from what I understand, she is talking about their trip here, and she says that she was scared at the time, but she's not scared anymore here. From what I understand, of course.
Queste storie di resilienza, speranza e determinazione mi hanno toccato molto e credo che abbiano toccato anche voi. Possiamo però fare la differenza. Donando anche solo una piccola somma a Sole Terre, potete fare la vostra parte per aiutare queste persone a ricostruire le loro vite. Trovate tutte le informazioni nella descrizione di questo video. Vi chiedo inoltre di condividerlo per farlo arrivare a più persone possibili. Grazie mille.